You guys, I'm realizing that I am just around the corner from finishing this first draft, and I don't really know what to do with myself. Like, I just have to keep on writing, but oh my goodness. Like, I'm so close. Hi, if you don't know me, my name is Joy. I'm currently drafting Project Phoenix, which is a high fantasy with a romantic subplot. It's gonna be a duology, and I'm working on book 1. And we are currently standing at about 76,000 words, like over 76,000 words. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. And my goal is to finish this draft by the end of March, so that it will have been a year since I began drafting. And I'm guessing it's gonna be about 100,000 words. So really, we've got less than 25,000 words to go. Assuming, you know, obviously I don't know exactly how many words it's going to be. It could be more, it could be less. But even the day that I'm filming this right now, it's February 18th. And I know that this video isn't going to come out until like early March. So from this point, from my standpoint, I'm what, 6 weeks away, maybe, roughly, from my, I guess, self-imposed deadline. I really would love to hit that goal. And the reality of that is really, it's daunting. I don't know, maybe I'm just being dramatic. But I am going on a family vacation next week, and it's with my husband's side of the family. They're very action-oriented people when it comes to vacations, so I don't think I'm gonna have a whole lot of downtime. And if I want to stay on track, that means I need to try to write more this week if I can. Now, is that realistic? Probably not, because I'm also gonna be like preparing for this trip, filming ahead for my other YouTube channel, and working ahead with my job. So like there's gonna be a lot to do this week, but I'm gonna do my best. And who knows, I should be able to do a little bit of writing and reading on the trip, at least on the plane or something. I don't know. I'll keep you posted. I'm just gonna focus on writing as much as I possibly can. So what I've been doing for the last few days actually is zero drafting and brainstorming for like the last 25% of the book. I'm not done with the zero draft yet, but what I mean by zero draft is like I'm just sort of verbally dumping, brain processing the story. I'm kind of telling myself, okay, these are the scenes that I want to happen in a, like, it's not actual prose. Like I'm just here, let me just read like one example to you. Like a brief excerpt of what like zero draft looks like for me. I'm really just laying out scaffolding. It's kind of like an expanded outline, but my brain doesn't work in outline form, so this works better for me. Okay. Action. Traveling on the road to Lorehaven. Decide on the setting. Probably grassland or prairie, and pack horses can carry their belongings. Summer sun bakes contrast to the wastes. There are gaps in Cecil's memory. He remembers that he and Theodolin are close. Vera is still suspicious. Rosalind reassures her. Vera insists that Theodolin tell her the truth, but she flashes a look at Cecil and says they should probably do so where Cecil cannot hear. They have their conversation away from Cecil, and Cecil is left to speak with Rosalind. It's a little bit awkward, but this might be a fun moment for them to bond or find some similarities. Especially because, spoiler, 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 spoiler. A good potential conversation could be about spoiler, 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 spoiler. They arrive at a village that doesn't have a proper inn, but they are allowed to shelter in someone's barn or something along those lines. Theodolin plays an instrument. And then I had a lot of questions to myself of maybe I should answer these in this scene. Because this scene in particular will have some like lore dropped and information about characters dropped and be more of a character chemistry moment. It's kind of the calm before the storm is like this specific chapter because they're traveling, getting to know each other on a deeper level. But I have some ideas of like what they're going to talk about, what the setting is, what the action, like what are they kind of doing as they talk about these things. That's just an example of like what I might do for a zero draft. And as you can see, like it's really not that involved. I'm kind of telling the story to myself first in a very loose way. Like I haven't, like nothing's really totally set in stone, but it at least gives me a general direction. And then, you know, I'll go back through for my proper first draft in my mind. I'll go back through and like actually write through it. And you know, some scenes I don't do any zero draft at all. I just jump right into more of a proper first draft where I'm writing prose, I'm writing out dialogue, I'm writing out a lot more detail, but for the end of the book, I just don't feel like I have a whole lot of clarity about it right now, because I feel like so much has changed over the course of my entire draft that it's like, where am I going anymore? I don't know, because so many things have changed. Like what I had originally planned for the ending, I think is still going to work, but it has to be a little bit different from what I had before. So this week, I think I want to try to zero draft to the end of the book, and then also kind of start coming behind and filling out those scenes that I zero drafted. I think the tough part is I frankly like don't have everything completely figured out about the world and about the characters, and so I kind of have to come up with it on the fly. I mean, not completely on the fly. I'm always thinking about it in the background, but the way that my brain works, I can't figure out the puzzle before I sit down to write it. It just kind of has to come out, and it's kind of a scary way to write, not gonna lie. But I'm realizing that this is just how my brain works, and I don't know if I like it, but it's how my brain works, so I just have to go with it. Because I've tried other ways. I've tried doing more of like front loading the work and outlining beforehand, but like it never feels correct to me. My intuition always pulls me in a different direction while I'm actually writing. I guess we're just gonna have to see where it goes. There are some elements to the characters in the world that I want to flesh out and think about more deeply as well this week, kind of as we're nearing the end of the draft, because there are a lot of spaces where I basically left a note to myself where I was like, figure this out later. Like, this is my idea, but really go deeper into it at another time, because you don't have the brain power to think about this right now. You know, like thinking about, for example, like how these two people came to be friends and like met each other and actually initially bonded, because that's going to have implications for their friendship now. I know the fact that they were friends, but I don't have all of like the details. Even if it doesn't make it onto the page, I kind of just want to have a clearer image of some of these character backstories than I do right now. So that's another thing I'm going to be thinking about. Well, I'll check in with you later. I should get to writing and doing all the other things I need to do in my life, because there's a lot of stuff on my to-do list today. So yesterday ended up being an extremely productive writing day. I mean, I had a lot to get done yesterday, but I may or may not have put some other things off to keep on writing, because it was just one of those days where I was like, this is working. Like, I'm coming up with good ideas. I'm liking what I'm seeing, and it was very fun. Also, if you hear my kids in the background, they're chasing each other and playing and yelling, so they're just being a little bit loud. But anyway, I think I discussed with you yesterday that I was wanting to like zero draft to the end of the book, and I pretty much did that. Pretty much every single scene from this point to the end of the book is fleshed out kind of beat by beat. I mean, not entirely, but a lot of it is. It's not actual prose, so in my mind, I'm not really framing it as a first draft, because I think there's still a lot of other details that I need to work out and write through. But I did get 2,297 words of a zero draft done yesterday. I'm actually really excited as to how the ending of this book is going to work out. I was writing through the kind of dark night of the soul moment where, oh my gosh, Vera has a dark night of the soul moment, and Cecil also kind of separately has a dark night of the soul moment. So there's two different ones for the two different POVs. For Vera, I actually started crying as I was writing down what her thought process would probably be, because she actually winds up getting what she wanted. She meets her goal that she set out at the beginning of the book to do, but she's like, okay, well, I met my goal. Why am I not happy? And she kind of has to question that and reckon with that and realize that her goal did not align with what she actually needed and what she actually wanted deep down. So I actually like started crying, like tearing up a little bit, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be such a poignant moment for her, like such a character growth moment for her. And I can't wait to actually write it out in a nice way rather than, just like bullet points. And, the ending, I have a very good idea of exactly how the book is going to end, but there's still a few pieces missing that I feel like I just won't be able to solve those problems until I get there and I'm like in the weeds and trying to write it out. And then obviously in future revisions, future drafts, the ending is going to change. I've realized that especially the beginning and the ending are going to change significantly because it depends on what the themes are that I want to pull out, because I know that there's a lot of themes and there's a lot in there, but it's just a matter of, okay, well, what do I want to actually focus on? And I feel like I'm not really going to fully discover that and choose that until, you know, future drafts. But okay, so I did the 0 draft to the end of the book in the afternoon, and then Cody the writer had a slumber party writing stream, which was great for me because I'm a night owl. I like to stay up late. I like to write late. So let me know if you're interested in having like late night streams, because that actually works better for me. And by late night, I mean like 10 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know how you guys feel about that. But anyway, we hosted a game night last night, so I couldn't catch the whole stream, but I caught the final sprint. And during that final 40-minute sprint with Cody the writer, I wrote 776 words of like actual prose and started kind of writing through what I had just 0 drafted. The hardest parts are still ahead of me, but I at least have a very strong idea, a very strong vision of what's next. And that's really, really exciting. I am also realizing that this book is not going to be 100,000 words. It's probably going to be closer to 110 to 115,000 words. That's my current estimate. But I think that the first draft is still going to be 100K because there's going to be a lot of stuff that I just won't have fully figured out in terms of the world building, especially. There are just a few details where I'm like, it's hazy, but I need to hash that out a little bit more. But my total for yesterday, so combining the 0 draft, which I'm just going to include in my word count for now, and the drafting that I did during Cody the writer's session, I wrote a total of 3,038 words yesterday, which was very productive. And I am extremely close to 80,000 words in my draft. So we're on a roll. This is great. Later today after work, I think it would be really fun if I can write at a coffee shop, but that just depends on how much work I have to do. So we'll see. We'll hold that loosely. I would love to do that, but like, I don't know. But also, now that I have that new keyboard, which I don't think I ever actually acknowledged, I have a new keyboard, a little bit of a new writing setup. I love it. At first, it was a little bit clunky and I was making lots of typos and it was a little bit like, ugh, do I regret this? And I can't type quite as quickly on it, but that's not that much of a problem because I end up writing really slowly when I'm drafting anyways, because I'm, you know, really thinking about what I'm writing. Also, can I show you guys like some books that I just got the other day? Is this a book haul? Maybe. I also want to say that I hardly buy physical books anymore. I most recently purchased, you know, a bunch of poetry books as a reference, but like actual novels that I'm reading. In the last 2 years, I've pretty much exclusively been reading my Kindle. I probably get like 85% or 90% of my books off of Libby, like from the library as ebooks or audiobooks. Sometimes I do kind of miss reading a physical book. And my husband and I were on a date last week and we went to a used bookstore and I found a lot of books that were on my TBR. And okay, this is another thing. I'm rambling. Oh my goodness. We have loose plans to add like recessed shelves to our attic. So right now we have bookshelves made out of plywood and cinder blocks, and it's been that way since we moved in 5 years ago. So it's about time that we actually make it nice and make it more of like an actual like library that we want it to be. And I'm realizing that my like physical book collection is not indicative of what my current tastes are, what my current favorite books are, or anything to that effect. Like I've got a lot of books from my adolescent years, like Harry Potter and Percy Jackson and Warrior Cats and Divergent. And I've got a lot of books from college, which was mainly classics and craft books. But I am woefully lacking in books that I like now. So I would love to get books that are my current favorites, like make a list and, you know, get books that I've already read. That would be my number one. But yeah, as I mentioned, I saw a bunch of books that were on my TBR, a bunch of books that I'm pretty certain that I will enjoy. And, you know, they were at a discounted price because they were used and it was a local bookstore, which is a plus. So that was a very long-winded way of saying I'm excited for the future in my future relationship with physical books, even though I think that the vast majority of the books that I read will still be on my Kindle. It's just too convenient. But okay, let's do the little book haul. So first and foremost, this is a book I've already read. This is Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. This was one of my favorite reads last year, and Alex E. Hero, I adore her prose, I adore her voice. So frankly, I'm probably going to use this as reference, especially while I'm like writing the second draft of my book and revisions and that sort of thing. Honestly, I just admire her atmospheric prose and like the way that she creates her settings. And I also want to read more from Alex E. Hero in general, but Starling House I already know and love. It's a modern gothic story, I believe is like the way that it's framed. It takes place in Eden, Kentucky, and it really explores what it means to be othered in society. But also there's like a house that is sentient and haunted, and I don't know. It's just very fun. Next book is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I don't know very much about this other than it has fairy tale vibes, and I previously read the Scallamance trilogy last year, also by Naomi Novik, and I enjoyed it. It had a really fun voice. I'm sure that this will have a different voice because it's a different type of book, but I did read the first page and I was very intrigued, so I'm excited about this book. The next book I picked up was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. And I have read Shadow and Bone and like the first half of Siege and Storm, which that was part of Leigh Bardugo's Shadow and Bone trilogy. I did end up DNFing Siege and Storm, but I think that I just wasn't in the right frame of mind because I was kind of just getting back into reading again. But I was like freshly postpartum and very tired, and it was not clicking for me, although I did enjoy Shadow and Bone quite a bit. But I've heard a lot of really good things about Ninth House. I've also heard a lot of good things about Six of Crows. So in general, like, I think Leigh Bardugo is a great author. I just haven't given her a whole lot of a chance. So I've heard that this one has like more horror elements and is a dark academia novel, I think. Sounds really fun and intriguing, and I'm excited to try it out. And this one I think is the one I'm most excited for. It's Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wong. I've been wanting to read Sword of Kaigen, also by Emma Wong, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. But this one recently came out, and by the descriptions of it, it seems literally just so completely right up my alley. I've heard it described as like a dark academia Full Metal Alchemist, and that's the book that I want to read. And I'm very ridiculously excited for it. I've heard it has a very imperfect female protagonist and a little bit of a romance that happens and a very, very cool magic system. So it all sounds very intriguing to me. And this cover, are you kidding me? I love this cover. It is so beautiful. But okay, I'm gonna head out because I have to go to work now, and attend to my children and make sure they don't completely destroy the house downstairs while I'm up here chatting away. But yeah, I'm really excited about reading those books. Hello. Yesterday, I think I showed you a clip of the stream that I did, my very first live stream. That was so exciting. Oh my goodness, and very productive. I got, I think, a total of 723 words during the stream, and we streamed for almost 3 hours, which was kind of crazy, but honestly the time flew by, and I was just so happy with all of the support, all the people that came out and asked incredible questions and engaged in the chat. So I'm just really grateful. So if you were a part of that, thank you so much. That was a very successful first stream, and I definitely want to do more in the future. It's just super fun to be more and more involved in this AuthorTube community. So yesterday was the stream, Thursday evening. Right now it is 11 p.m. Friday, the next day, and I fully intended to like get some writing done today, but alas, my son woke up last night at like 2 a.m. Throwing up. So yeah, he had a stomach bug for most of the day today. Thankfully, by the time we put him to bed this evening, he wasn't throwing up anymore, and I'm hoping that he sleeps through the night because we are waking up at like 5 a.m. because we have a super early flight to leave on our vacation. So yeah, I basically spent the whole day tending to a sick child along with packing everything for the whole family, which, oh my gosh. I think the worst part about being a parent is having to pack not only for yourself but also for your children and like thinking about all of their needs. There's just too much to think about when you're traveling with children. Oh my goodness. Of course it's all worth it, but that's probably my least favorite part. And cleaning the house, trying to get everything ready. And I also had work to do today as well, about 3 hours of work for my part-time job. So it was just too much for one day. And I just now finished packing and it's 11 p.m. and I just wanted to hop on and update you guys. Just do a little check-in before I leave for the trip. And I'm not really going to put any expectations on the week. I would love to get some writing and reading done, but I'll probably read more likely than write because I'm going to be traveling with kids and it's kind of hard to, like, normally I would try to write on the plane, but since I'm going to have my kids, I'm probably going to be trying to entertain them most of the flight. But I did get this week so far 5,128 words total, which is great because, as you probably know by now, my goal is generally 4,000 words a week. So that means next week I have technically, to stay on track, I only really have to do at less than 3,000 words. It gives me a little bit more margin, but again, I'm holding that all loosely. If I get that done, great, but if not, that's totally fine. So yeah, I'd love to show you a few little bits of my trip, a little bit of the reading and writing that I get done while I'm out there in the West, and then I'll check back in with you guys after my vacation. So also to those of you that were on the stream towards the end of the stream and were concerned for my life and my well-being because I just had a lot of darkness in the background. And, there were people that were, like, afraid that something was gonna, like, jump out at me. So I turned on a light while filming this because I was like, oh, well, I'll be nice to them. But then I realized just now that there's still this, which is way worse. See? There are no malicious beings hiding in the dark. It's just a mess.
Piece of cake.
Hello! It feels like it's been honestly forever since I've spoken to a camera, so if I'm all over the place, my apologies. But today is Tuesday. I got back from my trip on Saturday evening. They actually lost our luggage, which was rather unfortunate, but they found it on Sunday, so that was good. And on Sunday, I went to a wedding. Oh my gosh, beautiful, beautiful wedding. So I drove like 3.5 hours really, to go to that wedding in Cincinnati. And then I drove 3.5 hours back that same evening. And then Monday, I was back to work yesterday and trying to figure out my life again and get my house back in order. And oh my gosh, I don't know. I feel like whenever I take a vacation, as much as I love it, I always feel like I need to take a vacation from my vacation because, wow, I was very active, as you probably saw on the clips. I don't know. Excuse me, sir. Hi. And it was it was a very, very fun trip, and I'm so glad I was able to go. But also, I'm still honestly worn out from it, and like the time change, and oh my gosh, we're adjusting, and it's okay. As far as writing goes on the trip, I did not really write anything at all. I did do some brainstorming and wrote down some ideas, so I was honestly thinking about my book quite a lot. But there was one day last week, like last Tuesday, where we didn't really have a whole lot planned, and that was the day where I was like, oh, well, maybe I can sit down and do a little bit of writing that day because we don't have a whole lot planned specifically, and I'm not going to be skiing that day or anything like that. Instead, I got really, really sick, so I was completely incapacitated. I think it was probably just a severe case of altitude sickness based on the way that it felt. And like, I didn't get a fever or anything, but I was super nauseous, vomiting, headache, felt like I had a hangover type of deal for the whole day. So really, I was just subsisting on the couch and going in and out of sleep and feeling generally terrible. So I did not write that day, but I did actually do a lot of reading over the course of the trip, and a lot of reading that day specifically because that was pretty much the only thing I could bring myself to do. Therefore, I did finish not one, but 2 books during the trip, and I started a third book. So I finally finished Tenet of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. I've been reading that book forever, and I kept like putting it off in favor of other books that would come up on my Libby. I had gotten to the 50% mark, and it was just, I don't know, a lot of it was a drag, but I'm glad that I pushed through because the second half of the book was way better than the first half of the book, in my opinion. Overall, I think I gave it 3.5 stars, not because I don't think it was a good book. Like, 3.5 is very solid, in my opinion, and I don't want to discount, I mean, in terms of what she wrote for the time, like, it is a very feminist novel, and honestly quite radical for the time, and really showed an abusive relationship, like an abusive marriage, very plainly. And that was kind of scandalous for its time. I don't know, the prose was decent. It was beautiful in some respects, but I just sometimes I felt like I was getting like hit over the head with a lot of moralizing. And I also was sort of feeling like, okay, like I get the point, like let's kind of move on. And maybe that's just my 21st century instant gratification taste speaking. But I don't know, I just felt like I wasn't wanting to pick up the book to read it that often until closer to the end of the book. And I had some other qualms with it. But overall, I mean, I think it's a book that's worth reading, and some people might enjoy it more than I did. I personally, so like Jane Eyre is probably my favorite of the Bronte sisters books, because I also didn't actually like Wuthering Heights. And I think part of the issue is the framing of the story just feels like Wuthering Heights does the same thing, where it's like the story is a letter written to a person for like some reason. There's some motivation of writing the letter, but it's not that compelling of a reason. And then there's letters within that letter, and it just all feels like a lot. It's like, would you really dump your entire, like all of these details in your entire life story on this person in this way? I don't know, it just feels a little bit much. I was not expecting to ramble about Tenet of Wildfell Hall for that long. The other book that I finished was Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, which I loved. I love that trilogy. It was a great end to the trilogy. And I think it will always be up there as one of my favorite, like, cozy and romantic fantasy series. Honestly, like, I just love the voice of those books, the voice of Emily Wilde as she's journaling. And that's where this is a book where I feel like it fully takes advantage of the framing and it actually works. Whereas in Tenet of Wildfell Hall, I always felt like they were excusing the framing, or it was like, oh, I only have this letter that you can read as is because I kept it for this inane reason, but I'm like including it word for word here, so this is why you're getting it word for word. It's like, okay, just stop. I'm being so nitpicky. Okay. That's just that sort of thing just like totally takes me out of the story when you're like trying to justify to the reader why this person would have this letter. I don't know. Maybe it has the opposite effect for other people because it's like, oh, well, this feels like an actual letter because he's referring to the person. I don't know. Anyway, then the other book that I started on audiobook was The Unconsoled by Kazuo Ishiguro, which is a very niche book because I heard about it from Kari Can Read on Instagram. And honestly, it's currently reading as a complete like fever dream. Like it's just like everything is super disorienting. And I haven't decided if I love it or not. I don't know. Like, I think I'm open to it. I feel like this is the type of book that you have to walk into with very open hands and very open to where the narrative takes you. It's not very conventional at all. So that's what I'm currently reading. It'll take me a while to get through it. So I'm reading The Unconsoled on audiobook, and then on my Kindle, I'm currently reading, like right now, Venture Below by Taylor Ann Wright, who is our very own authortuber. And I don't know if you would be following me and not know about her, but if you don't, go give her a follow because she is delightful, a wonderful human being. But yeah, I'm reading through that right now, and I intend to kind of move straight into Venture Beyond from there. And then after that, I also have the second Mistborn book on my docket, as well as The Will of the Many. So I've got like a lot of books that I am working through at the moment, but it's all good. I love them all. But anyway, so that's just like a note on what I'm reading. Okay, actually, I'm so sorry. This is future Joy. I already filmed the clip that you're currently watching, and you're gonna get back to the clip that you were watching, but I am interrupting myself because I completely forgot to mention the books that I purchased while I was in Colorado. I found a super cute used bookstore there. I mean, it did smell like my grandpa's old library, which was super nostalgic for me. And there were a lot of books and they were kind of all over the place, but it was really fun to sift through everything. And I think I want to make it a habit to buy books from the places where I travel, if that makes sense. Like just walk into a local bookstore and pick up a physical copy of a book. It might be a book that has been on my TBR, or it might be like a new book that I discovered. So yeah, both of these books were more so books that I discovered organically, but I'm really excited about them. So the first one is Firebrand by Marion Zimmer Bradley, and I have heard of The Mists of Avalon, which is I think her more popular work, which is a retelling of Arthurian legend, I believe. But Firebrand is a retelling, I think, of the Iliad, or at least of the Trojan War. You are in my space just a little bit too much. Okay, can we calm down? Okay. And honestly, the cover really caught my eye. It's a classic, like 80s fantasy type cover. It was in the fantasy section, so I'm assuming there's a fantastical element to it, but it might just be in the fantasy section because it's more of like a Greek mythology retelling. So I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But it seems like it's a feminist retelling, actually, which is exciting because it's from the perspective of a woman. I don't know that it's from the perspective of Helen. I haven't looked super deeply into it yet. I did look it up on Goodreads, and one of the first reviews said that this was the weirdest book this person had ever read, and frankly, I was completely sold from that point. I was like, all right, I guess this is the book I'm picking up, because I'm down for like a weird book from a weird bookstore. Like, come on. I don't know. It's kind of fun to throw something in like unexpected to my pile of books that I'm going to read, so I'm interested to see what that's all about. And then this book was just honestly beautiful. It caught my eye because it reminds me of like a vintage botanical journals, and it's called The Hidden Histories of Flowers. And let me just read the back to you. The history of flowers and our relationship with them is fascinating and diverse, spanning centuries, countries, cultures, and people. In The Hidden Histories of Flowers, Maddie and Alice Bailey reveal the deeper meanings behind flowers and explore their inner workings and place in history. From learning where flowers come from and how they have ended up in our homes to exploring myths and superstitions behind flowers, as well as their medicinal properties, you'll be transported into the captivating world of flowers. Full of riveting details, The Hidden Histories of Flowers shows the importance and beauty of flora, which is right up my alley because I love plants and I love flowers. And if you saw my book ideas, like my future book ideas video, one of them features an herbology professor. So I feel like this is a great book to have on hand for that future book, just for like research purposes and finding ideas. And honestly, the inside of this book too is really pretty. Like, it's got gorgeous pictures. Oh my gosh. And it's even got some like full color inserts with quotes. So honestly, beautiful book. I could not resist picking it up. So those are the books that I got. And back to wherever I interrupted myself, we shall go. So yeah, as far as writing goes, kind of as I expected, I didn't really get to write like at all. But the night that I got back on Saturday, like, I missed my book so much. I just sat down and read through some things, and I just wrote and brainstormed and got down, let me see, 1,547 words on Saturday night. Like, literally, I was traveling all day. I was exhausted, but I was just like, I need to write. I need to write. So I was able to kind of like catch up a little bit, not entirely, but you know, for that week, I got about 1,500 words. So that, paired with the fact that I wrote a lot extra the week before, I don't feel like I'm too far behind. And then I also wrote some on Sunday and Monday. I don't remember exactly what I wrote each day, but now my current word count update, like as of right now, as of last night when I was writing, is 83,772 words. Oh my gosh, you guys. I'm literally, I mean, my goal for the first draft was 100,000 words. It's probably going to be longer than 100,000 words is my guess. But honestly, like, I might just kind of call it, because I really have to the end of the book 0 drafted. So once I hit 100,000, I might just kind of call it and be like, okay, well, this is the first draft. However fleshed out those last few scenes are, because they're not going to be fully fleshed out, I'm assuming. Because I think, yeah, it's going to be longer. But yeah, as long as I hit that by the end of the month, that I will have reached my goal, which is very surreal. But today, as of right now, it's March 4th. If I'm able to edit this video, it should be going up March 8th. We'll see. But yeah, I'm still definitely on track to finish my first draft this month, even though, you know, I basically took almost a whole week off. And honestly, I have so many ideas now. Like, I was brainstorming a lot while I was gone. And I think I know exactly how I want to frame the beginning of the book. There's going to be a lot of changes. And I think I already maybe mentioned that in a previous vlog where I was like, I think I'm going to change the beginning, but now I actually know how I want to frame it. I'm so excited. I mean, I'm a little bit nervous because you can have ideas, but ideas are one thing, execution is wholly another. So I hope that I'm capable of executing it the way that I want it to be. But honestly, like, now, the closer that I'm getting to finishing the first draft, the more and more excited I am for revisions. But I'm also kind of killing myself because I wanted to take a pretty long break between my first draft and then the beginning of my second draft. So I'm like, why did I do this to myself? Because I'm excited to dive into revisions. I know I can do whatever I want to do, but that was my timeline. And I think I would benefit from taking some space and stepping away. But okay, I think that's it for this vlog. This has happened over the course of, like, oh gosh, 2.5 weeks or something. Like, I feel like I forgot what even happened during this vlog, so I'm gonna have fun editing this one. It's gonna be a journey. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. If you're interested in my writing journey in general, I have a whole playlist of my writing vlogs that you can watch. You can kind of start from the beginning, and I do believe this month of March, I am part of at least one writing stream so far, and that's on Taylor's channel. But stay tuned. I might try to figure out and organize some other writing streams on my channel, my own channel, or I don't know. I'm always open to being a part of other people's streams if it works out in my schedule. Although March is kind of panning out to be a really busy month for me, so we'll see. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that your creative spirit is able to flourish, especially as we're entering into a time of spring and the sun is going to be out more often. Hopefully it's getting a little bit warmer. Today is the warmest day it's been in absolute months for me, so I am very excited about that. And yeah, I will see you next time. Bye!